Are you on the edge of your seat?
Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams.
On today's latest trends in location-based entertainment.
Brought to you by the LBX Collective.
Your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
Alrighty, everyone. Let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to another Sound Off with Kevin Williams. And this is like the little holiday edition for, I should have had like something, like a little Santa hat or something on. I like your sweater. It's great.
No, it's not great, but it is festive. That's all that
Okay.
that matters. So yeah, it's that time of year, Easter. Oops, sorry, no.
Yeah, exactly. All right, awesome. Well, so what do we have today for our meme, Kevin?
Well, I've noticed a couple of articles popping up, arguing the toss about, is it competitive socializing or is it sportstainment? So I am putting my foot down. It is competitive socializing, not sportstainment. Change my mind.
Well, it's gonna be a hard one for me to change your mind because I'm right there in agreement with you. I think the sportainment, I understand I don't understand how sportainment could be aligned with most what we would call competitive socializing. Yeah. Pickleball, perhaps, yes, maybe we could call that sportainment, if we wanted to. But I think that's maybe the only one, unless you want to have like big sports, like the big sports venues where you've got basketball and you've got other stuff, and some batting cages maybe. But even batting cages, that you could argue there's no competitive aspect to that typically, unless you're in like a home run dugout scenario.
And even then, those guys would argue that they're going for a much more social entertainment experience than a true simulation. So let's speak about the elephant at the back of the cocktail bar, as it were. Owning the nomenclature, owning the terminology of a word allows empowerment, and you can control the narrative. And I know that a lot of individuals and media services don't really like to use competitive socializing because that is seen as a phrase or a term that has been championed by a particular group, and they want to be their own masters of the terminology. They want to drive the vehicle themselves. I understand that. And the sportstainment one comes from, a cursory glance at the market. You see bowling and you think, oh, well, bowling's a sport. You see darts and you say, oh, well, darts is a sport, or it is played to a sports level. Oh, Topgolf is a sport. F1 arcade, well, obviously a sport. And what they're doing is they're interpreting what is being played there as the sports derivation of this. Show them Toca Social and they will say, oh, well, it's football, it's obviously a sport, when really what we're doing is we're taking the activity, the entertainment, and we're socializing it, and we're making it competitive, social, so that everyone can play it, that it isn't an athletic undertaking. Competitive socializing really can trace its roots back to All Bar Lanes and Lane 7 in the UK, when they really did start the boutique revolution, where they took a bowling experience and then they laid it back. They made it comfortable. They made it engaging for large groups of individuals, not just the expert sports players, sportainment players, but open to everyone, that you didn't have to hire the shoes. You could drink and have fun, and the scoring didn't need a piece of paper and a pencil to calculate the winnings. And this is really where we are. Some people like to say that it is technology infused entertainment or sports engagement. I go for gamification. There is a word out there that describes quite clearly that we have gamified these activities, and these activities aren't just sports, because retro arcades are competitive socializing environments, and you're not going to, unless you're going to be pedantic and talk about esports tournament video arcade game players, these are all social engagements with F&B and a very strong targeting mix. So I understand that some of the applications in the competitive socializing use products that are sport orientated, but I wouldn't call this sportainment. I would agree with you that pickleball is sportainment because there's no gamification there. There is no technology infusion. That is dropping a pickleball game into a space that is a social entertainment environment. I would argue that the original Topgolf could sit quite comfortably in the sportainment sector until they have suddenly gamified it and they have suddenly added the shooting bays and the simulator sites and the other entertainment and licensed Sega Sonic to be part of their augmented reality entertainment mix. The danger is when something gets as popular as competitive socializing, everybody wants to make it their own and everybody wants to claim that they're an expert in it. I am no expert in competitive socializing, even though I've been talking about it for some time. I am still learning every day when I wake up, and I would rather be a specialist still learning than claim to have the answers to what it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think ultimately for me, it comes down to accessibility. And if it is, pickleball venues are no more accessible than a regular pickleball venue that's out in the middle of a park or a community center. And so if they've done work to make a sport product more accessible to the masses in order to drive more social competition, then calling that anything that's been, accessibilitized, I don't know, I'll just pick up that word. Anything that has been changed in that way doesn't fall in the sportainment term for me.
Yeah, sportainment, entertainment, was it cinetainment? All of those.
Artainment. Yeah.
I understand how those words got created, especially cinetainment. I have some responsibility for that, and vendortainment. Again, we understand where it's coming from, but the sportainment is really pushing it downhill and really doesn't fit cleanly into this sector. Though that said, there will be examples that won't fit the model, and that's the nice thing about the social entertainment sector, is that it is proving itself to be a very broad church.
All right. Well, coming up next, we've got the trend report. So we'll dive into that here in just a moment. Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon. All right, Kevin, let's take us through the latest trend report.
55, ho, ho, ho. Well, straight into the biz and the trends. We've had some interesting openings. If you follow the openings and shuts, you will have been seeing that there's been quite a considerable rollout, and our friends at Gravity threw the doors open on their new interpretation. So Gravity Active is their trampoline and active entertainment component. Gravity Max is their mule, their mixed-use leisure entertainment with their karting and their mini golf. And now we have Gravity Arcade, which is really a arcade. It is an amusement component that can be parachuted into a retail unit. And I get the feeling that they have purposefully come up with a means to populate within shopping malls dead space with this concept. I'm going to be brutally honest. I know the team behind the development of this, the guys at Funbox, who are now owned by Sega Amusement International. And to me, it felt like they had just placed their amusement machines into an available space with a very professional card swipe system and all of the levels of engagement that we've come to see from the Funbox inclusion of amusement into the Gravity Max setup, but without the themality. It felt a little bit warehousey for me. I don't know if that's because they were under a very strict budget, or that they populated a space that can be easily removed of those machines, dependent on the operator owner of the mall. But yes, amusement machines were put into a shopping mall.
That's basically it. These pictures here are too small to really do justice, but you shared. Well, no, it's not your fault. But when you shared these over, I think it was a week ago or so, yeah, I had the same reaction. It basically is games in a box.
Nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want to go for, you will be laying yourself open to boredom from your audience if you haven't got a brand. But these guys involved in this process are doing this for a reason, and maybe it's a toe in the water before they actually go into the big leagues. But I would point to how companies like GameTown in Netherlands populate retail units with amusement machines. Here in Spain, we have Ozone, and they do exactly the same thing, but with a little bit more pizzazz. But that's just my point of view. This is the first one. I'm sure we will see many other Gravity arcades opening up, and we wish all of them well, getting their foot under the table, as it were. I talked about this also in Open and Shut, and GameTown is one of those other amusement operators that in Europe that has a chain or a brand that populates existing retail units. Unusual situation here. The Kepson Family Park has always had an arcade in the center of its operation. And it was looking a bit tired. So they did an agreement with GameTown, and GameTown has come in and rebrand this a GameTown arcade. And you kind of see the before and after approach, and kind of shows even just with a little bit of investment, you can make the space a lot more appealing towards the amusement offering that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on every single one of these, but this is what Gravity Arcade should have done.
Yeah.
At least something that has some extra LED lighting around the edges, some darker, coloring, some actual branded elements versus just white walls and marble tile or whatever.
But again, we don't know if the operator of the mall had some restrictions there, and so this could. I still get the feeling that this may be a proof of concept that even the bare minimum can generate some revenue. But here, captive audience who come to the holiday park. And they're getting an updated amusement offering, as all venues need to do. They need to be retrospective, especially if you've been open for over 3 or 4 years. You really do need to take a long, hard look in the mirror to see if your facility doesn't need some refurbishment and reinvigoration. Talking about refurbishment and reinvigoration, our friends at Rec Room have finally thrown the doors open on their facility in Canada, in Vancouver. It's 45,000 square, and it is sitting inside a previously old historic frontage, at least, cinema, which has been redeveloped into their F&B amusement and entertainment space. A lot more stylized, this facility, compared to the other rec rooms, which were a little bit more colder and more organic. This one is much more themality. I think they've tried to incorporate the historical aspects of the venue that they've gone into, and it's been reflected in the bar and in some of the pool areas and spaces like that. Definitely an example of cinetainment. If ever one was needed, though, funny enough, there isn't a cinema connect to this rec room. They are in the catchment of one of the Cineplex cinemas in that area. We were talking about this in Open and Shut. Surprise, surprise, another Topgolf has opened. But that's not really the story here. The Missouri site has received quite a big reinvestment to redevelop the site. It was one of the original Topgolf US operations. They've parachuted about 26 million in investment in there, and part of that reinvestment has seen Greenspan, the mini golf guys, come in and put a mini golf course on property. Interesting to see Topgolf have mini golf, because if anyone knows their history about the two brothers that started Topgolf, they left Topgolf to go away and set up Putt Shack, because they felt that the Topgolf technology, ball tracking, would be perfect for technology-infused mini golf. And the Topgolf management turned their nose up at the idea of mini golf. Well, surprise, surprise, suddenly Greenspan's turning up, putting mini golf into their facilities. I don't expect all of the Topgolf facilities to upgrade, because they are franchised in the majority, and not every franchisor is going to want to put their hand into their pocket for that amount to bring something up to par. But it is interesting to see outdoor mini golf. Let's hope the Missouri winters aren't too cold. I'm not sure. I haven't done the weather forecast check for Missouri about how cold it gets in winter or how hot it gets in summer. But an outdoor mini golf that doesn't have any roof cover or any tarpaulin cover does not make me happy, but at least they're making an effort to add something else, a secondary entertainment to their core entertainment mix. Brandon?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is definitely taking a swipe at Pop Stroke more than Putt Shack, certainly. So this is interesting. I do think, though, that at least some of I can't tell if this is real or concept rendering here.
It's real.
It's real. Well, then I'm a little bit disappointed to see there are a few things missing that I would expect to see in at this stage, especially from a group that's as well experienced as Greenspan. But things like simple things like places to put my drinks, and that kind of stuff. There's no pedestals. That's some interesting things that they're going to have to retrofit, because
I think Topgolf were very strict about what they could and couldn't do with that, and I think drinks outside is not something that they're actually interpreting. I am sure that will change quite quickly.
Yeah, that would be a big mistake if I'm Topgolf. But I think anyway, they're definitely taking a swipe at Pop Stroke. Although I think the Pop Stroke experience is still going to be better than this one, but it would be interesting to take a look. Just as a quick aside, I did look up Missouri's weather right now. I've been there in the winter before, and it is frigid. It is 31. That's Fahrenheit. 31 for a high and 19 for a low. So I don't know if anybody is going to be out there without any heat, taking some mini golf strokes over the winter.
So forget the pedestals for your drinks. Where's the heaters?
Yeah, you can bring a drink. It just gets frozen before you're done.
Yeah, no ice needed. So I think Topgolf is pivoting, shall we say, after their intransigence over mini golf. We will see where this goes. Of course, Topgolf is in transition now as it separates itself from Callaway, so maybe there'll be more freedom to experiment with the brand that they've got. I touched upon this also in the sound off, which is a new entrant into what I am calling the technology-infused sports sector. So here we go, sportstainment. What fundamentally we have here is live viewing of golf. But this is technology golf. So the PGA stars, famous golfers, are taking part in a golfing league, which has been created, and they're doing it inside in a purpose-built facility, and they're playing against giant projected screens. So when they're doing the long game, they are shooting their ball at a screen, one of the largest simulator screens in the market. And allows them to be able to compete on any of the courses around the world. And when they do the short game, the putting greens actually have special undulation technology, so they can mimic any surface that they want. This is all created to be live play, so the audience gets to watch the players at work, as it were, and this is also being streamed through ESPN Zone. It is quite a departure. It is a technology golf experience, really. If anyone was needed. This is part of the investment by the golfing industry to try and capture its new audience. And I think this is quite an investment, and it'll be interesting to see how successful this is when it starts in next year, the beginning of next year with the first games. Tiger Woods being one of those involved in playing this. Tiger also has his own mini golf chain, so everything seems to be connected at the moment.
This is super fascinating and exciting for me. I'm fortunate to live here in Phoenix, where we have the Phoenix Waste Management Open. It's part of the PGA Tour, and it's called the Phoenix Open, the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Anyway, they are known for. They call this the greatest green. What is it? Now I'm going to say it wrong, but the greatest show on grass, I think, is what it is. But what that is, we have a famous hole 16. And it is basically the tee box from hole 16 is centered right in the middle of a stadium, very similar to this. And it is surrounded and around. And if you hit a great ball, everybody's going to cheer. It's a big, giant party. And if you do something wrong, you're going to get booed at. Things are going to get thrown at you. And a lot of the PGA Tour, like some of them, like really eat it up and they ham it up and they get the whole crowd excited. Others absolutely hate it. For a long time, Tiger Woods boycotted the PGA or the Phoenix Open because he didn't like the way that hole 16 was created much more of a ruckus and more of a party environment. Here we have exactly what hole 16 is, but digitized. And I'm really excited about this. I think this has an opportunity to really make golf an everyman's game, which is what the hole 16 has always done. It really brings people who aren't really into golf generally to come in and get excited about hanging out, having drinks with your buddies, and watching a game of golf. I also love the fact that they have teams, so it isn't just a golfer. You actually have TGL teams that are competing. Yes. And these teams are owned by famous people. Steph Curry has a team as well, and a number of others. So anyway, definitely super interesting. I did not even know anything about this until you talked about this on Open and Shut, and I've done some digging on the tglgolf.com website to learn a little bit more here.
This is the next sound off. We'll have a little bit more information, but we are really seeing the sports sector looking at the entertainment side, also the bricks and mortar side, the physical aspects of this. So the streaming is important, controlling the space where this is taking place, also having the capability of linking this to other promotions. Along with promoting golf, this is going to be a major shot in the arm for the simulator golf shooting bay sector. So these are all interconnected. There is news that X Games is working on stuff. ESPN is working on stuff. The PGA is working on stuff. Along with the movie brands and the toy brands, don't be surprised if we see the sports brands are also really interesting in this particular part of the industry. Again, maybe explaining why sportstainment is trying to be hijacked at the moment as a terminology.
But I'll say just on sportstainment, this is sportainment, right? This does work with that name. This is not an accessible. You're not going to find the guy playing at Topgolf with his buddies coming in here and having any level of competition against the pros. So this is sportainment. This is where you can go, have great entertainment and technology, and watch the professionals compete.
Going on a track day around a Formula One circuit is sportstainment. Watching PGA stars play for your entertainment is sportstainment. Yes. Entertainment based on sports, yes. Trying to shoehorn competitive socializing into that is a bit of a push, and that's the last I'll say on that one.
Yeah.
Restructuring going on. We're at that point really in the sector where sadly everything expands and then everything has to contract. 2025 is going to be the year of restructuring, reevaluation, pivoting. for many operations, they've had their 4 or 5 years of investment money. The investors now are going to open the books and want to see major profits and returns on their investment. There are also companies now that want to compete against this ever increasing landscape, and that sadly brings corporate restructuring. And we're sad to see just before Christmas that Meow Wolf has had to lay off 20% of its staff. This goes on top of layoffs that they did in April, as well as layoffs that they did in 2020. The company is making big noises with one hand about their plans to open up in Los Angeles, but in the same time, we're seeing them restructure. Hopefully, they will come out of this a stronger operation to be able to compete to the level that they need to be able to in this sector. They had they knocked it out of the park with Omega Mark, but really haven't seen that success duplicated. And I would argue that some of their other facility openings have been more gallery than entertainment offering, which have come with the limitations that brings. And then restructuring at Dave & Buster's. The CEO that was parachuted into the operation following the merger between Main Event and Dave & Buster's has decided to move on. You kind of get an idea that when a company is planning to change a CEO, they usually have his replacement or her replacement in waiting in the wings. In this particular case, an interim will be standing in while they look for his replacement. The markets, some of the market reports are saying that this resignation was brought on by the quite worrying 7% decline in store-on-store sales revenue. And there's also some word on the street, and again, this is rumor rather than verified information, that some of the changes, the social bay, the rebranding, the new food menu, haven't been finding favor as much as been calculated and hoped for. Dave & Buster's is a tough one to juggle. It is a legacy entertainment offering. It is the first of the entertainment sites, as it were, but also it's a tricky monster to steer or feed. And I think it's going to take a lot more work to really nail down what works within the Dave & Buster's and what doesn't work within the Dave & Buster's. I wouldn't be surprised if whoever comes in next is going to take a very sharp knife to their facilities. And I'm hoping that we will start talking about Main Event as well as Dave & Buster's, because they are a combined operation. And I noticed that most of the market conversation is always about Dave & Buster's rather than talking about Main Event, unless we're about to see the Dave & Buster's brand become ubiquitous across both operations.
I think that would be a major mistake for Main Event. I think one of the biggest issues Dave & Buster's has is their brand.
Yep.
It's not the visuals of the brand. It is what people assume a Dave & Buster's is when they're making decisions around what they're doing with their friends or with their family in an evening or on a weekend. And it's going to take a long time and a lot of effort to really change people's minds and their assumptions around a Dave & Buster's being a sports bar with mediocre food and an arcade. I mean, that is what Dave & Buster's has been known for the last 20 plus years. And so, yeah, that's their biggest issue and biggest challenge. It's not their mix necessarily. It's not even necessarily like what they've done with the social bays. It's what people's perception of Dave & Buster's is.
And there's nothing wrong with being that if you do it well. Mediocre food can be turned into comfort food quite easily. Chuck E. Cheese was the butt of many a joke about its pizzas. They owned it, they managed it, they controlled it, and this is really what's needed. I would argue that the new management that's been parachuted into Dave & Buster's, some of them have found it a difficult transition into the location-based entertainment market. This new CEO, whoever comes in, I'm sure will be also looking at maybe some other management changes to try and restructure the company on a more firmer footing. That said, the company has been actively looking for senior executives over the last few months. So I think the company is finding how difficult it is to find individuals with the required experience in this sector. And then the required experience to drive a company. Wow. Well, only a few sound offs ago, we were talking about Immersive Gamebox and, you know, how they were throwing shade at Sandbox VR. And, you know, we were looking forward to seeing how the earnings were doing to prove how strongly their entertainment offering was doing over the VR entertainment offering. And then suddenly we wake up to the news that the parent company of Immersive Gamebox, Immersive Group Gamebox, has gone into administration. Information is short on the ground, as you would expect. This news breaking just before the holidays. We will have a lot more about this in January. You know, they claim in the market reports to have 32 facilities out there. I have to be clear that I think of those 32, the majority of those are franchised sites. Many of you who have long memories and can stay awake during my sound offs will remember that I talked a couple back, I think it was 30 or 40 region. We talked about Merlin Entertainment last year signing an agreement, a partnership agreement with Immersive Gamebox to open 2 facilities jointly with them, one in Australia, one in Germany. You know, the word on the street is that, you know, it was a difficult process and that they're being reevaluated at the moment on how far they're going forward with that relationship. Of course, this is just sadly rumor at the moment. We don't have a definitive statement from Merlin because the person who was championing that particular relationship, their CEO at Merlin Entertainment, resigned. You know, Dave and Buster's going through CEO changes, Merlin going through CEO changes. Are we seeing a pattern? Yes, we are. We're going to see the responsibility now for the earnings that are coming in from these entertainment offerings being held accountable to the management team. And here we're seeing Immersive Gamebox. They have hired a considerable number of franchises, or paid for a considerable number of franchises. They use technology that uses expensive off-the-shelf camera tracking systems, or you know, someone has to be paid for all of these licenses. And when you take that out of your bottom line, any profits that you have left over are quite impacted. And I'm sure once the operation finds a buyer or goes through a breakup process, we'll have a much better understanding about how successful the actual entertainment offering of Immersive Gamebox has been in comparison to the media promotion that we have seen for this brand. That said, I have the watch list of companies that I keep an eye on to see if they're going through success or if I perceive them to be struggling. And sadly, Immersive Gamebox was on that list. So was The Other World. So was The Void. You know, there are a couple of other companies on that list, and you know, I don't like making light of people losing their jobs and corporations going through these kind of remunerations. But, you know, when you inflate the balloon, if you put too much air into it, it goes bang. And we are at that point now where we need to manage the balloon. Less hot air and more reliable sales figures are needed. And there are some companies who keep themselves very quiet, who are seeing some really good, strong financial numbers from their business. But at the same respect, we have a lot of companies that believe in the hot air of hype before they actually prove their financial worth.
Yeah.
An interesting one here is our friends Nintendo have entered another aspect of the location-based entertainment market by opening up a museum. One of their old factories in Kyoto, Japan, has been turned into a Nintendo museum where You can go around and experience the brand over its over 100 years of operation. A lot of technology is being used to immerse the guests into the experience, as you would expect from Nintendo. And the interesting thing about this is you have to, register previously to actually go. You don't just turn up at the door and walk through the door. This is a very hot ticket item as soon as they threw their doors open, and the tickets are modestly priced at about $22, but at the same respects, this is quite an experience, I'm led to believe, and it is on many a Nintendo fanboy's wish list, bucket list, I should think. And I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo is encouraged to think about opening this kind of approach in other localities around the world. Speaking of localities or location-based entertainment and a brand that is associated with Nintendo, Pokemon. Pokemon Go is still alive and well, still has a very strong following, and anyone that has played Pokemon Go knows that there were gyms, locations where you could go to train your collected Pokemon, as well as places you could go to compete with other players. These gyms or Pokestops were beginning to be considered as a branding and marketing concept, and McDonald's and Starbucks had actually, during the furore all those years ago now, ancient history, when Pokemon Go was on everyone's lip, was the AI of its generation. There was these companies had actually licensed deals with Pokemon Company to turn their facilities into Pokestops. That has come back again, and McDonald's has signed an agreement for a short period of time, end of this year, the beginning of next year, to have their fast food facilities turned into Pokestops. It'll be interesting to see how much audience this draws to their locations, and it will give us an idea of how popular still Pokemon Go is out in the market. Talking about our friends at McDonald's, and the fast food facility has really started to embrace new technology. They rolled out their latest drive-through focused sites, so no lobbies, no customer service other than the window service. Interesting, the first use of the McDonald's delivery lockers. So this is really a ghost kitchen kind of approach to the fast food entity. They have a window dedicated for the Uber Eats delivery services, as well as for the customers that are using the mobile app. This is a mobile app operated facility to get their food. No word on how much automation is being used behind the scenes in these facilities. Are they using robots for the cooking process? Again, a ghost kitchen. This is kind of our COVID hangover approach to the fast food side, and also an example of how we in the entertainment sector have to be mindful that you don't have to have a restaurant on site, that you could actually utilize ghost kitchens to supply your food for your facilities. Sorry?
I was just going to say, this is, I think, McDonald's response to Taco Bell. Taco Bell was really one of the first ones to do this.
Yep.
Interestingly, one of their locations that was this new concept was actually in Minnesota, where one of our friends, Barry Zellickson, is based. And he actually, while he was a former FEC operator and also the producer behind Fun Across America, he also owns a number of Taco Bell, and manages a number of Taco Bell franchises. So this, and actually this location being, I say this location because I just pulled it up here, one of the ones in Minnesota. So they have 3 drive-through lanes. Food comes down, down through like a little air chamber elevator. You get your food, and so I think this is McDonald's first shot at their first response to Taco Bell's.
One of the, I'm not sure if I included it in one of the early sound-offs, but we did include it in the Friends of the Stinger Report Facebook. We did report on the Taco Bell automated system. As you say, it uses a pulley delivery service from the basement where the food is being cooked to the streets level, as it were. It's interesting, these operations, and of course with more robotic serving operation systems, I think they will become more ubiquitous over time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, to the talking tech, one of the ones that didn't get a lot of love from the coverage, but really does need from IALPA, but does need to be touched upon. I had a chance to try the Gel Blaster system at IALPA. And we were lucky enough to actually go to one of the main events near to the exhibition facility that actually had turned their laser tag facility over to Gel Blaster. For you that are not familiar with Gel Blaster, these are the biodegradable gel pellets that are fired through the gun. It started as a toy brand. It is now migrated into location-based entertainment. The great thing about these systems is that it is phygital. There is a lot of interaction with an app. There is scoring. And the nice thing about it is the guns are dual operation. Either they're pellets for the older players or they go back to being laser tag for the younger players. And one of the major components about these systems is the target suit or vest that you're wearing, patented technology by these guys, are really impressive. And also the vests allow you to sync with your app as well as sync with the weapon. So, you can get your score set up, really building that repeat visitation component. For me, this is an important brand because it is a crossover brand. You practice with the home game version, and then you play and compete in the location-based entertainment version, and then you compete for the competitions and maybe get involved with your Tiger Wood moment, shoot off in a giant stadium. You can see the logical progression of where this can go. And one of the aspects that has always annoyed me about location-based entertainment is that we don't have a progression between the consumer side to the location, or the commercial side to the sports side of the market. Here is an example. I like to call this tech-infused laser tag, but really this is laser tag 2.0. Those pellets add a lot to the experience. It is, being shot by the pellets compared to being just shot by the laser is a different and much more compelling experience. And the guys behind the platform have really gone all out to make this edgier for the audience that they're targeting, the individuals that are born with a silver internet connection in their mouth.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. When we had a chance to go and check out the Gel Blaster that was put into the Dave & Buster's, or no, it wasn't Dave & Buster's, it was the main event in Orlando. And, I think the vests are absolutely fantastic. The app that ties your sport or your score into your app, and you can see and rank your leaderboard over multiple plays, over multiple days and visits, I think was absolutely fantastic. And this is a great way to infuse new energy into your pre-existing laser tag facilities and create a new experience. I think Gel Blaster is a brand to watch in this industry. I think that they are going to expand very quickly because they're able to come in and reinvigorate a laser tag facility without a lot of heavy infrastructure development or cost beyond the cost of the actual Gel Blaster equipment. And I think that is they have a big opportunity ahead of them.
Yeah, well, for transparency, they are an advertiser in the Stinger report, but I still feel very strongly that the brand here is at an early stage of greatness, especially as you touched upon the refurbishment that we're seeing going on in the sector, the ability to take a tired laser tag space and reinvigorate it and give it a new lease of life, even totally change the audience appeal to this system is essential for all operators to consider, and this is a new approach and a very compelling approach. Also allows you to have a secondary business. You can sell the toy Gel Blaster guns as well as selling the experience. There's a lot to unpack here, and if you haven't had a chance to see the video of the system in operation, I'd recommend people to have a look at that. Technology-infused ping pong, using an LED screen technology as the table surface, as well as tracking the ball. and having a number of game options, so you can have 4 and 3 player games on the same table. This is technology infusion to ping pong, and I won't be surprised if we don't see other kinds of game experiences utilizing this kind of technology going forwards. That phygital explosion is really taking hold at the moment. I should say the phygital tidal wave is really breaking hard, I think would be a better way to approach it. Phygital again here with mixed reality. Putscape is, excuse me, mixed reality game system. You put on the mixed reality headset, in this case the Pico, and it superimposes mini golf onto the surface. You use real putters, you hit the ball, and then you can have the activities. If you want to see this in action, go to the Friends of the Stinger Report Facebook, and you'll see the video we have running there. Interesting thing here is that the guys at Putscape took this system to a real mini golf venue and superimposed their game into the holes of the mini golf seamlessly and created quite a compelling experience. Do I expect to see people walking around a mini golf social entertainment facility wearing head-mounted displays at the moment? Maybe not. I will never say never. Maybe that is a upscale sale you could make to people. There's the traditional non-MR mixed reality version, and then there's the mixed reality version. But what I do expect is a lot of the new mixed reality headsets that we're seeing appearing on the market may suddenly make this a proposition worth considering. Just to be clear, next year we're going to be seeing Samsung throw their hat into the ring with their mixed reality headset. It is clearly the love child between the Apple Vision Pro and the Meta Quest Pro. It is an interesting system. Samsung is one of those companies that really has succeeded in the VR and the MR market, while the manufacturers of the systems have all felt the pain and anguish of trying to break into the consumer sector. Because one of the things that you need to understand is that the majority of all of the virtual reality headset systems, commercial as well as consumer, all use Samsung displays. So they're the one winner out of all of this, and they love to play the long game, Samsung. They previously were in the VR sector right at the beginning when Oculus first started with the Gear VR back in 2015, the halcyon days of 2015. They were in the markets up until 2017 with their, what I called their VR mobile phone system. Sorry, I used to call it the holster, because you had to physically put your mobile phone into the system, the same way that the cardboard worked. It proved very popular, though understanding that Samsung was playing a long game by actually giving these units away with their mobile phone contracts. Then they pulled away from the market and just sat back and watched. Now they have decided to come back in. They've watched Meta attempt to control the market. They've watched Apple attempt to enter the market, and now they're entering the market, but not on their own. They have partnered with Qualcomm for the Snapdragon 2 processing, XR2 processing, and they partnered with Google for the apps. And so this platform is to be known as the Android XR platform, and we're going to be seeing a lot of it at CES next month. And I wouldn't be surprised if Samsung long game pays off for them. I'm not saying that the consumer sector is suddenly going to explode and everybody will be rushing out to buy this system, but I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing this kind of system popping up in commercial and enterprise applications, and we start to actually see the promises of mixed reality and virtual reality bearing a little bit of fruit. But I'm not saying that that's going to save this phase of VR. I'm just saying that Samsung's in the position to benefit from the investment that other companies have made. That's it for me. So it is now the process of wrapping presents and consuming large amounts of food and alcohol for the holiday season. I'd like to wish all of our viewers and listeners a big thank you and very happy holidays, whichever holidays you celebrate, wherever you are. And I look forward to telling you about what 2025 will bring. But also, I'd like to thank the LBX Collective, especially for giving me this opportunity to talk to this audience.
Well, it's awesome, Kevin. Appreciate you so much, and for everything that you bring to the table here in discussions and sharing with everybody else in our collective. So thank you so much, Kevin. All right, everybody, that wraps up our Sound Off with Kevin Williams, number 55, and we will be back in the new year with number 56. Until then, everybody, stay tuned and keep kicking ass.
Happy New Year.